Today, the world stands at a precipice, and at the forefront of this momentous change are the youth, especially the Muslim youth, who are no longer silent observers of the events unfolding around them. They are waking up, breaking free from the chains of complacency, and standing tall in the face of global challenges. No longer willing to accept the status quo, they are realizing the power they hold as individuals and as a collective force. They are recognizing their heritage, their shared history, and the deep strength that lies in their unity. From the battlefields of Gaza to the vibrant neighborhoods of New York, the message is undeniable. The consciousness of Muslim youth across the world is awakening. And with it, a new era of activism and social change is emerging. This awakening is not an isolated phenomenon. It is a global movement, one that transcends borders and connects people from every corner of the world. The events that have shaped the lives of Muslim youth, from political oppression and war to economic disenfranchisement and social injustice, have galvanized them to demand their rightful place in the world. The internet and social media platforms have played a critical role in amplifying their voices and organizing efforts. What once might have been localized protests or fragmented efforts are now global conversations. The youth of today are no longer relying solely on traditional media channels to disseminate information. They are the information creators, the storytellers, the truth tellers. As they become more connected to the broader global community, their understanding of their rights and their ability to challenge the systems that oppress them have grown exponentially. The awareness of the issues affecting their communities, from the plight of Palestinians under occupation to the rise of Islamophobia in Western societies, is widespread. But it's not just an awareness of the issues, it's a deep understanding of the forces that perpetuate these injustices. This understanding is empowering Muslim youth to reject the narratives that have been imposed upon them for centuries. They refuse to accept the portrayals of themselves as victims, as silent bystanders to history. They now understand that they have the power to shape their own narratives and make a meaningful impact in the world. The youth of today are also equipped with something powerful: knowledge. The education systems that were once designed to limit their voices and their agency are now being challenged. Muslim youth are rising up with a thirst for knowledge, driven by a desire to better understand their faith, their history, and the political realities around them. Whether it's through self-education, formal schooling, or participation in activism, they are becoming experts in issues of justice, human rights, and global politics. This knowledge is not just theoretical. It is being used as a tool for social change. They are no longer passive recipients of information, but active participants in shaping the discourse around issues that matter to them and their communities. But perhaps most powerful of all is the burning desire for change that pulses through the hearts of Muslim youth. They are no longer content with merely raising awareness. They want action. They want a better future, not just for themselves, but for generations to come. They see the injustice of the past and present and know that the future is theirs to shape. Whether it's organizing protests, supporting humanitarian efforts, or creating grassroots movements, they are taking matters into their own hands. Their passion, determination, and are a testament to the fact that the power of youth can no longer be ignored. No? They know that they are the agents of change, and they are not waiting for anyone's permission to act. In conclusion, the Muslim youth of today are not just awakening, they are rising. Their awareness, unity, knowledge, and desire for change are shaping a future that is more just, equitable, and inclusive. What once seemed like a distant dream is now becoming a powerful reality, and the youth are at the center of this transformation. The world has seen what they are capable of, and there's no turning back. The change has begun, and it will continue to grow until it reaches every corner of the globe. What once seemed like fragmented voices, isolated by distance, culture, and circumstance, are now coming together to form a powerful, unified force. The youth, especially young Muslims across the globe, have begun to transcend the boundaries that previously divided them. Whether they are in the streets of Istanbul, the slums of Karachi, or the universities of London, the youth are realizing that they share more than just faith. They share a common struggle, a shared experience that binds them together in ways that were once unthinkable. Today, the voices of Muslim youth are no longer mere whispers in the wind, but a resounding call for justice, equality, and dignity. In the past, young Muslims around the world often felt disconnected from one another. The challenges faced by a teenager growing up in a refugee camp in Lebanon might seem worlds apart from those of a young student in a Western city, where issues like Islamophobia and discrimination often take different forms. Similarly, the aspirations and struggles of a Muslim youth in Africa may have been worlds apart from those of a young professional in Southeast Asia. Yet, despite these geographic, cultural, and linguistic differences, something profound has begun to happen. They have come to realize that their struggles are intertwined, their voices, when united, can demand real change. The awakening of Muslim youth is not just about sharing a faith, it is about sharing a collective consciousness that recognizes the inequities and injustice faced by their communities. It's about recognizing that the oppression of one Muslim is the oppression of all, whether it's the occupation of Palestine, the genocide in Myanmar, the war in Syria, or the discrimination faced by Muslim communities in the West. These struggles are not isolated incidents. They are all part of a larger global pattern of inequality, injustice, and systemic abuse. When Muslim youth witness the suffering of their brothers and sisters across the globe, it stirs something deep within them. They understand that the liberation of one part of the Muslim world is tied to the liberation of the whole. This recognition has birthed a new spirit of solidarity. Across borders and cultures, Muslim youth have begun to support each other in profound ways. Social media platforms, which once served as mere entertainment, have now become vital tools for organizing, advocating, and connecting. A tweet sent from Cairo can spark a movement in Kuala Lumpur. A post on Instagram about a protest in New York can ripple across the globe and inspire action in Cape Town. These platforms allow Muslim youth to see themselves not as isolated individuals, but as part of a larger, global network of activists working toward justice and equality. The power of shared experience is what makes this movement so potent. Young Muslims around the world know what it means to feel marginalized, to face discrimination, and to be misunderstood. They know the weight of being judged solely based on their faith or the actions of extremists who hijack their religion. Whether it's facing suspicion and prejudice in the West or battling systemic oppression in their home countries, these shared experiences unite Muslim youth in a way that transcends borders. They realize that the barriers that have separated them, language, culture, geography, are ultimately superficial in the face of their common fight for justice. This movement, fueled by the strength of shared faith, is not just about political or social activism. It is about the recognition that their unity is rooted in something far deeper. It is the belief in a vision of justice, of mercy, of dignity. It is the conviction that they are not merely passive victims of circumstance, but active agents of change. The shared faith of Islam, with its profound teachings of justice, equality, and solidarity, serves as the spiritual foundation of this awakening. It is through this lens that Muslim youth see their struggle not as an isolated battle, but as part of a larger moral fight for the well-being of all humanity. This collective force is not just about youth protesting in the streets or posting online. It's about building a new world, a world where the voices of young Muslims are not only heard, but also respected and acted upon. They are not just fighting for their rights. They are fighting for the rights of everyone who suffers injustice, regardless of their religion, race, or nationality. By standing together, Muslim youth are creating a united front, a front that refuses to be divided, refuses to be silenced, and refuses to back down. In this era of awakening, the youth are discovering that together they are stronger. The power of their shared experiences, their shared struggles, and their shared faith is a force that no system of oppression can withstand. The unity of Muslim youth is not just a hope for the future, it is the reality of today. And as they continue to join hands across the globe, the movement they are building will only grow more powerful, more unstoppable, and more transformative. This awakening among Muslim youth has sparked a fierce and resolute resistance against oppression. What was once a passive, quiet struggle for justice has transformed into a vibrant, organized, and unyielding call to action. No longer are these young people waiting for the world's permission to speak out. nor are they allowing themselves to be silenced by the forces that seek to oppress them. The youth of today are standing up not only for themselves but for the future of their communities, their cultures, and their identities. They have understood that to resist is not just an option, it is a moral imperative. The resistance they are building is not one rooted in violence or hatred, but in a collective understanding of the profound injustice they face. These young Muslims are not simply reacting to external pressures. They are challenging long-standing systems of oppression that have marched them for generations. This resistance is a direct response to the political, social, and cultural forces that have worked to diminish their identities, to make them feel invisible, or worse, to label them as other. Whether it's the systematic occupation of Palestine, the racial profiling of Muslims in Western countries, or the stigmatization of their faith, the youth are hitting these narratives with a power and clarity that is difficult to ignore. In the past, Muslim communities were often forced into the background, made to feel that their stories, struggles, and aspirations were secondary to the dominant narratives that shape the world. But today, the youth are rewriting the script. They are rejecting the narratives that seek to undermine their identity, demonize their faith, or to portray them as enemies of peace and progress. They are not passive recipients of someone else's story. They are the authors of their own tale. Through social media, grassroots movements, public demonstrations, and everyday conversations, young Muslims are reclaiming their narratives, insisting on their right to be heard and understood. In this new era, silence is no longer an option. This generation has witnessed the consequences of staying quiet in the face of oppression. They have seen that silence breeds complicity, that ignoring injustice allows it to persist. They have witnessed their elders struggle quietly, often without the tools or the platform to make their voices heard. But the youth now live in a world where their voices can reach millions, where their calls for justice can echo across the globe. They are no longer waiting for someone to grant them permission to speak up, nor are they asking for validation from the powers that be. They understand that the fight for freedom and dignity begins with their own willingness to speak the truth, no matter the consequences. No matter the consequences. The courage to speak out has also been fueled by the understanding that the stakes have never been higher. The oppression they face is not abstract or distant, it is personal. Whether it's the bombing of a school in Gaza, the discriminatory laws passed in Western countries, or the crushing poverty felt by many Muslim communities worldwide, these issues are no longer someone else's problem. They are their problems. The youth realize that their voices, if united, have the power to challenge the status quo, to bring about the change that is so desperately needed. But they also understand that this change will not come without resistance, both from external forces and from internal doubts. This generation has learned that to resist is to remain firm in the face of overwhelming adversity. They know that standing up for justice is not always popular, and that those who challenge entrenched systems of power often face harsh consequences. They have seen how the powerful strike back against movements for change, whether through violence, misinformation, or systemic repression. Yet despite this, the youth remain undeterred. They know that the path to freedom is rarely smooth, but it is always worth walking. They understand the importance of persistence and resilience, knowing that even when faced with seemingly insurmountable obstacles, they must keep pushing forward. The youth understand that this resistance is not just about opposing oppression, it is about affirming the value of their identity and their humanity. Their struggle is not just for political freedom, but for the right to exist on their own terms, to live in a world that acknowledges their worth and their dignity. They refuse to accept a world that marginalizes them or tries to erase their histories and contributions. This generation is determined to leave behind a world that is better than the one they inherited, one that respects them, their culture, and their faith. In the end, this resistance is not just about standing up against oppression, it is about standing for something, freedom, justice, and a world where every individual is given the dignity they deserve. It is a powerful statement of resilience and a clear message to the world. The youth are awake, they are strong, and they will not be silenced. They are the voice of the future, and they will not rest until the world reflects the values of fairness and equality that they know to be right. Young Muslims today are not merely waking up to the challenges of their world. They are empowered in ways that previous generations could only dream of. This empowerment comes not only from a deep sense of self-awareness and cultural pride, but also from the unprecedented access to tools of communication, technology, and education that have fundamentally reshaped the way they engage with the world. The youth of today are not confined by the limitations that once kept their voices muted. They are no longer waiting for permission to act, nor are they limited by geographic boundaries or the oppressive structure have historically stifled their potential. The tools available to Muslim youth today have fundamentally shifted the dynamics of their activism, allowing them to challenge injustices in real time and across continents. Social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube have become essential tools for organizing, advocating, and amplifying their voices. These platforms allow them to bypass traditional media filters, which often misrepresent or ignore their struggles, and instead speak directly to a global audience. The ability to communicate instantly with millions across the world has democratized activism. Young Muslims can now share their stories, awareness, and call for action with a single post, video, or tweet. They are able to create viral movements, mobilizing support across continents in a matter of hours or days. This instantaneous and far-reaching communication ability has made it easier than ever to challenge injustice. Whether it's speaking out against Islamophobia in the West, raising awareness about the plight of Palestinians, or organizing a protest in solidarity with oppressed communities around the world. Through these digital platforms, Muslim youth have created global networks of solidarity. Movements like #Black Lives Matter, #Save Palestine, and #Muslim Lives Matter have seen young Muslims from different backgrounds, cultures, and geographies come together to voice a unified call for justice. These movements are no longer confined to a particular region or country. They transcend borders, bringing people together who might never have met in person but are united in their desire to see a world that values equality, freedom, and justice. Technology has allowed these young activists to share their lived experiences, build community, and push back against harmful narratives in ways that were simply not possible before. In addition to social media, the education available to young Muslims has empowered them to become experts in a variety of fields, whether it's social justice, politics, human rights, or media. Many young Muslims are now accessing high-quality education both within their own communities and abroad, thanks to scholarship programs, online learning platforms, and increasing access to university education. They are becoming lawyers, doctors, journalists, engineers, and activists, equipped with the tools to challenge the systems of oppression that have historically marginalized their communities. With their newfound knowledge, they are not only able to speak out, but also to create actionable solutions to the problems they face. The global connectivity that technology affords is also a key element in this empowerment. Young Muslims can now easily connect with others who share their experiences and struggles, building alliances that cross geographic, cultural, linguistic boundaries. Whether they are participating in virtual meetings, engaging in cross-border activism, or collaborating on projects, they are no longer isolated in their efforts. They can tap into global knowledge pools, share resources, and support each other's initiatives. The digital age has made it possible for a young Muslim in Paris to stand in solidarity with a peer in Karachi, for a student in London to help organize a relief effort for refugees in Syria, and for a youth activist in Cairo to inspire action in Los Angeles. This empowerment is not just about raising awareness, it is about taking action. Armed with access to technology and education, young Muslims today are capable of organizing large-scale movements, speaking to global audiences, and effecting real change. The barriers that once limited their capacity for influence are crumbling. They no longer have to rely solely on traditional structures of power to get their message across. They are building their own platforms, shaping their own narratives, and determining their own futures. Moreover, the youth's ability to amplify their voices has enabled them to dismantle stereotypes and challenge misinformation. The portrayal of Muslims in mainstream media, often as perpetrators of violence or victims of circumstance, has long been problematic. But today, young Muslims are actively challenging these stereotypes by sharing their stories of hope, strength, and resilience. They are telling their own stories, correcting misconceptions, and showing the world that being Muslim does not mean being violent or oppressed. It means being part of a rich, diverse global community that is working toward justice and peace. In conclusion, the empowerment of young Muslims today is not just about having access to tools. It's about how they are using those tools to shape the world. With technology, education, and global connectivity at their fingertips, they are no longer passive recipients of history, but active participants in its creation. Their voices, once silenced by oppressive systems, are now amplified on a global stage. And in this new era, they are not just fighting for their own rights. They are fighting for the rights of all marginalized communities, and they are doing so with a strength, determination, and unity that is reshaping the world for the better. At the heart of this awakening lies a singular, unwavering pursuit: justice. It is not a favor that Muslim youth are asking for. It is their right to be treated with dignity, to live without fear, and to exist in a world where their humanity is respected. The global community has long turned a blind eye to the struggles faced by Muslim communities, whether in the form of political oppression, social exclusion, or economic disparity. For far too long, the cries for justice have been ignored, marginalized, or silenced. But today, the youth are demanding a seat at the table of justice, equality, and human rights. This generation of young Muslims understands that the pursuit of justice is not an abstract concept. It is a daily, tangible fight that requires both awareness and action. Their calls for justice are rooted in the lived experiences of communities who have faced marginalization and violence for decades. From the ongoing struggles of Palestine to the rising tide of Islamophobia in Western nations, young Muslims are drawing upon the collective experiences of suffering and oppression to fuel a movement that seeks to break down the walls of discrimination and exclusion that have been built around. The plight of Palestine serves as one of the most prominent examples of this fight for justice. For decades, the Palestinian people have endured violent occupation, displacement, and systemic injustice. The struggles of the Palestinian people have long been echoed by Muslim youth around the world. Youth who see the suffering of their brothers and sisters in Palestine as a symbol of the broader fight for justice. Today, those who were once passive observers of the Palestinian cause have become active agents of change. Young Muslims, empowered by access to social media and global connectivity, are using their platforms to bring attention to the Palestinian struggle, challenge the narratives that justify its oppression, and demand international accountability for Israel's actions. They are not just protesting the occupation, they are demanding an end to the systemic injustice that has plagued Palestine for generations. But the fight for justice extends beyond the borders of Palestine. Islamophobia has become a pervasive force in many parts of the world, fueled by misinformation, fear-mongering, and prejudice. Whether in the form of hate crimes, discriminatory policies, or the demonization of Muslim communities in the media, young Muslims are united in their mission to dismantle these harmful ideologies. They are not simply asking for tolerance, they are demanding acceptance and respect. The rise of Islamophobia has made the need for justice even more urgent, and Muslim youth are responding with clarity, purpose, and strength. They are challenging stereotypes, fighting back against hate speech, and working to build bridges of understanding between Muslim and non-Muslim communities. Through activism, education, and interfaith dialogue, they are reshaping the conversation around Islam and standing firm against the forces that seek to diminish their faith. Equally, the fight for justice extends to the global struggle for equality in all its forms. Whether it's racial justice, gender equality, or economic fairness, young Muslims are increasingly at the forefront of movements that seek to build a more just world for everyone, regardless of their background, ethnicity, or religion. They understand that the fight for justice is not one-dimensional. It is multifaceted, interconnected, and it requires a holistic approach. The pursuit of justice is not just about addressing one issue in isolation. It's about challenging the systems of oppression that permeate every aspect of society. Young Muslims are also aware that justice does not come without sacrifice. They understand the risks involved in speaking out and challenging powerful forces. Whether it's authoritarian regimes that silence dissent, the corporations that profit from injustice, of the political systems that maintain the status quo, these youth know that their fight will not be easy. They are willing to put themselves on the line because they believe that the pursuit of justice is a moral obligation, not just a political stance. They are demanding the same freedoms and rights that every other human being is entitled to. Freedom from oppression, freedom from discrimination, freedom from exploitation. In this pursuit, Muslim youth are redefining what justice means. It is no longer just about legal reforms or political recognition. It is about reclaiming their humanity in a world that has too often overlooked their struggles. Justice is about ensuring that young Muslims can walk down the streets without fear of being judged or outright their faith. Justice is about creating a world where the rights of Muslims and all marginalized communities are recognized, protected, and celebrated. It is about seeing Muslims not as victims, but as active participants in the shaping of a better world. In conclusion, the pursuit of justice lies at the heart of this awakening. For young Muslims, justice is non-negotiable. It is a demand that cannot be ignored. Whether fighting for the rights of Palestinians, challenging Islamophobia, or advocating for global equality, their mission is clear: to create a world where justice prevails, where everyone is treated with dignity, and where the voice of the oppressed is no longer silenced. They are not waiting for justice to be handed to them. They are actively demanding it, and they will not stop until it is achieved. Amid the struggles, the hardships, and the undeniable sense of injustice, there is a force that is driving this movement forward, a force that is even more powerful than anger or frustration. Hope. This is not just a movement rooted in protest, but one powered by a vision of a better future, a just world, and a brighter tomorrow. It is a hope that refuses to be dimmed by the darkness of oppression, a hope that sees beyond the challenges of today to the possibilities of tomorrow. This hope is that binds the youth together and propels them to continue fighting, no matter the odds. For far too long, young Muslims around the world were told that change was impossible, that their voices would never be heard, that they had no power in the face of entrenched systems of oppression. But today, the youth are proving that change is not only possible, it is inevitable. It is being realized with every protest, every hashtag, every conversation, and every act of defiance. This generation has begun to see that the world is not a fixed place, that systems of injustice can be challenged, and that with courage, unity, and persistence, they can be dismantled. The vision of a world built on justice, equality, and freedom is no longer a distant dream, but a concrete reality within their reach. One of the most powerful aspects of this movement is that it is not driven solely by anger or frustration, although these emotions are certainly present. Rather, it is underpinned by a deep, abiding hope. A hope rooted in the belief that things can change, that the world can become more inclusive and compassionate, and that the future can be better than the past. Hope is what sustains these young people as they face overwhelming adversity, as they stand in the face of powerful political forces, media narratives that misrepresent them, and entrenched systems of oppression that seek to keep them silent. It is this hope that allows them to persist even when the road ahead seems uncertain and fraught with difficulty. This hope is contagious, spreading across borders and oceans, building a global movement that is not only demanding justice, but envisioning a world where it's possible. From Palestine to New York, from London to Cairo, young Muslims are beginning to see the impact of their collective efforts. They are realizing that their voices, once dismissed or ignored, have the power to shift the discourse. Their social media posts, protests, and grassroots movements are gaining traction. The narratives that have long been imposed on them of victimhood, silence, and helplessness are being replaced by stories of strength, resilience, and action. This newfound visibility and unity are providing them with the confidence to push further, to aim higher, and to dream bigger. The hope within this movement is not merely idealistic. It is practical and action-driven. The youth are not waiting for someone else to bring about change. They are the ones creating it. They understand that the journey will be long, that there will be setbacks and moments of frustration. But they also know that lasting change requires sustained effort, and they are committed to this fight, knowing that each small victory brings them one step closer to the justice they seek. They understand that even the most entrenched powers can be challenged when enough people stand together, when the collective will is strong enough, and when the movement is underpinned by an unwavering belief in a better future. In this sense, the fear that Israel and other oppressive regimes may have felt when they saw the rise of these youth movements is no longer a distant possibility. It is now a reality. What was once dismissed as a fleeting moment or a passing protest has transformed into a powerful, unstoppable force. The youth have found their voice, and it is a voice that is not going to be silenced. They are calling for justice, for the end of occupation, for equality, for the dismantling of systemic oppression. But above all, they are calling for a world where their humanity is recognized, where their dignity is upheld, and where they are no longer marginalized or excluded. The power of this movement lies in its ability to hold on to hope, even when the world seems to offer little reason for optimism. It is hope that has turned frustration into action, anger into resilience, and fear into determination. The youth know that they are not fighting for an impossible dream. They are fighting for a reality that is within reach. The change they are demanding is not just a possibility, it is inevitable, because the power of hope and unity is stronger than any force of oppression. In the end, the movement is clear. The youth are not simply rising, they are transforming the world. And in this transformation, they will not be silenced. Their voices will not fade away. They will only grow louder, more unified, and more powerful with each passing day. What was once feared is now becoming undeniable. The youth have awakened, and they are leading the way toward a world that is more just, more inclusive, and more hopeful than ever before.